our secretary, Nuli Namaste Garu. He is associate professor of MBSR Engineering College. So, and Professor Bhatia sir is senior member of IET, governing council member, and Veerabhadra Rao Garu, Narasimha Rao Garu, all the senior IETians, and many other IET members, governing council members, students, faculty. So, who are here, I welcome you all for this 73rd webinar of our knowledge sharing session. So, I welcome you all for this. So, today we are lucky that as a standby, suddenly I thank Namaswaya Garu since the scheduled program was with the other resource person. Due to some problem, he could not make it. Immediately, our secretary, Sir Namaswaya Garu, he took over and giving his webinar lecture. Thank you, Namaswaya Garu. And today's interesting session he's taking up on GNSS focus on NAVIC and emerging trends. Once again, I thank all the participants. Last week also, very good session took by Avaru Venkatramana Garu on ECG and technologies associated with that. And very good response was there, about 83 members, I think so, joined. So we thank you for making these webinar programs very successful. I request you all to participate like this only. And if any resource person is there with some good topic, please come forward, sir, to help the young engineers and our IET society. So just give us the abstract. We will fix up the date and announce it. It will be very useful to the faculty, students, and other members also. So now today, our secretary sir is going to take the session on GNSS, focus on NAVIC and emerging trends. So thank you, Namaswaya Garu. I welcome you all. Welcome you to this webinar and request you to start your webinar presentation. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ganeshwara Garu. Already your message has been received positively, and Anupam Tiwari in his chat box has asked for the 21st December as a date.
Good, sir. Very good, sir. Very good, sir.
So now, sir, we all know about IET, but as a customer, I request all of you to mute your mics. All of you know about IET, but as a this one customer, we would like to inform some of the newly joined members should know about IET. So in that aspect, I am just reading about the IET. IET founded in 1953 and is a leading professional society devoted to the advancement of science and technology in electronics, telecommunication, information technology, computer science, and other related disciplines. IET serves more than 125,000 corporate students and ISF members through its 63 centers spread all over India, including one at Kathmandu, Nepal. To keep pace with the technology development, it organizes these conferences, conventions, symposia, seminars, workshops, publications, and brainstorming sessions for continued knowledge upgradation of its members. The Government of India, Ministry of Science and Technology, Department of Scientific and Industrial Research has recognized IET as a scientific and industrial research organization. An institution has also been notified as an educational institution of national eminence by the Government of India. IET is governed by elected governing council from amongst its corporate and members and headed by an elected president. It has on its roll the Secretary General, the head of the IET Secretariat, and its chief executive. And today, most probably, our Secretary General will be joining this session. So with this brief, I request now Kirti Lata to read today's webinar speaker's profile.
Just small introduction, sir. I would like to know, Devraj, you're able to send the link to Secretary General, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He has joined, sir.
Yeah, joined, sir.
Yeah, we welcome you, sir. Secretary General, sir, Shiv Kumar, sir. Dr. Shivke Kumar is our Secretary General of IET Delhi. On behalf of all our executive committee members, I welcome you, sir, to this 73rd webinar.
Welcome, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning to all the dignitaries present here. It's my privilege to read out the profile of Nool Namaswaya, sir. Nool Namasivai was born in August 1967 at Eluru, Andhra Pradesh. He obtained BE from Gulbarga University in 1988 and MTech from Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University in 1994 with Automation and Control System with University Topper. Presently, he is working as Associate Professor in MVSR Engineering College, Hyderabad. He published 45 papers at international and national journals and conferences to his credit, and out of which 6 papers were won Best Paper Awards. He has more than 3 decades of teaching experience. He is a fellow member of IETE and a life member of CSI, IE, ISOI, BES, and ISTE. He served in various capacities in the above mentioned professional organizations and presently Secretary, IETE and BES, Hyderabad. He obtained Rashtriya Gaurav Award by India International Fellowship Society, New Delhi on 11th March 2005 and Best Citizens of India Award in recognition of exceptional caliber and outstanding performance in chosen areas of activity by Best Citizen of India, New Delhi during January 2006. His biographical note is included in Asia Pacific Who's Who in July 2016. With this brief introduction, I welcome Nooli Namasivai sir to this session. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, madam,
Thank you,
and thank you all
Kirtilata.
of you for the opportunity given to me. And also, I welcome all the dignitaries for this today who are joined, and particularly the Secretary General Shivkumar Garu, and also all senior members, Bhatia sir, Veerbhadrao sir, Narsarao sir. So many are there. I please excuse me, I can't read all the names. I welcome all of you for this today's webinar. And today I am going to present this IRNSS, and that is GNSS and the NAVIC, which is a Indian scenario, and how where you are actually, and to present the situation, this navigation is so important. And let us I'll share the PPT. Is it visible, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So today I'm going to topic global navigation satellite system, and emphasis on focus on NAVIC and emerging demands. And before going to this GNSS, let us see what is the navigation. Let us see the brief history of navigation. So it's very, very important role in our daily routine life. The history of navigation. So navigation is very, very old one, and the Greek, and which is about 3,000 years back, Phoenix claimed to have a circumnavigated African from Red Sea, sailing via Cape of Good Hope. Burning a fire, mountain tops were used as lighthouses. Earlier, there is no how to navigate. The legendary light of Alexandria was an example. Actually, what is navigation? Navigation is a word, perhaps its origin, Noika, there is a nav, boat, plus gati, which is known as velocity in Sanskrit, which is actually derived navigation. Not much is written in the modern history of about the navigation activities in Asia Pacific region. Chinese, Serbs, etc. has taken a lot of sea voyages. And Sindhu and Indus Valley civilization ruins, the parts of Pakistan, Gujarat, Haryana, do show that perhaps a successful business existed with Romans and Babylonians and Sumerian civilizations. Out of 18 Tamil Sindhus, Siddha Bhogantar went to China via sea route. Even he is supposed to have designed an aeroplane and lived in China as Leotus spread tourism. He is attributed to give a great navigation skills. So, and once you are going for the history of navigation, the great Sanskrit scholar Kalidas in the 4th century of AD was the first man who imagined about land navigation. In his Sanskrit composition Meghadoot, the Kalidas Yaksha instructs Megha how to navigate from Ramagiri to Alkapuri, not Hyderabad Alkapuri, and he used a biosphere as navigation control points. He used a complete biosphere as navigation control points to navigate from Ramagiri to Alkapuri. And before going to the navigation, in the in the centuries of 14th to 16th century, you can be able to find out various devices you're using to find out the latitude, longitude. The main two position navigation is latitude and longitude. And once you're included a 3D position, latitude, longitude, and altitude. So during the 14th and 16th century, these are the various methods which are using Egyptian groma, cross staff, astrolabe, traverse board, dead reckoning tools, compass. So these are the various tools we are using to find out the latitude during 14th to 16th century. And speed we are measuring by dead reckoning tool, and also compass we are using to find out the direction. Actually, it is a simple distance formula. Distance is equal to speed into velocity. So the simple formula we are finding out the navigation points. And also afterwards, to find out the longitude, we are using a chronometer, sextant, compass, etc. till 20th century. And at the 20th century, we are moved to radio navigation, where we are using radars and radio communications in First and Second World Wars, etc. Then slowly we are moved to satellite-based navigation and also land-based radio positioning. That is the LORAN, VOR, etc. techniques we are using for this radio navigation. And later on, we are moved to space-based positioning, that is satellite-based navigation. Satellite-based navigation, we are using satellites to find out the navigation. Then the first thing is transit is a method. Next, of course, GPS. So many people, everybody knows now today what is the GPS. And here in this navigation, time plays very, very important role. Time plays very, very important role to find out the accurate position. So these are the various methods to find out the time, determine the time. So once you are going for a little brief about the history of time, in 3500 BC, and it is using the various instruments like this, Publicus and Sandalas, and 2000 to 1500 BC, Mayan calendar, 1900 to 16 BC, Stonehenge, and these are the various methods we are using for determining the history of time. And also, of course, this is everybody knows the Jantar Mantar, which is there in Delhi as well as Amritsar. Jantar Mantar in 1727 and 1734 it is built by Raja Jai Singh. So which is very accurately, still it is operational. I think most of you visit this Jantar Mantar also to find out the time. In 1736, chronometer tested at sea. And again, during 19th century, and we are having the various instrument. 1918, Quartz oscillator developed, and also during 1948, developed first atomic clock, where we are using most of this atomic clock nowadays, and which is very costlier. And 1955, start keeping time with the cesium atomic clock and quartz crystal standards during 1960. 64 primary reference standards, and 1978 first GPS block satellite is launched, and 1991 primary reference standards, first GPS satellite clock, and 1997 Navstar, next generation of satellites was launched in operational from 1997. So these are the history of time where we are using from BC to the present position. And also each position, each one, the accuracy is also so important, because I told you, because time plays very, very important role in finding out the accurate position. So once you are coming to 1000, 1200, 1400, 1600, 1800, 2000. So once you are observed, this is the accuracy, stability in time per day, stability of time per day. We are moving from 10 kiloseconds to 0.1 picoseconds. So these are the various techniques we are using, quartz clock, cesium clocks, etc. Now we are getting the accuracy 0.1 picoseconds per day, and which is moving from 10 kiloseconds slowly. So these which actually made us to find out the accurate positions. Suppose if a person wants to know his position, where I am. So in that case, there are simple rules. Send a signal to sky by a terminal. Okay. Send a signal sky to a terminal. The two satellites receive the signal. Any minimum two satellites are required. That two satellites send an accurate time when each received the signal to the ground station. The two satellites send an accurate time when it is received. And the ground station calculates based on this one what is the longitude and altitude of the person. Just 1 minute, sorry.
Namaste, sir, is taking breakfast or what?
No, sir, actually, the
What, sir?
extension was suddenly it is not working. I changed the extension. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Okay, it's okay, sir. Just for humor, I said. Okay, so please go ahead, sir.
Yes, suddenly the power was gone. I didn't observe that one. Okay. Anyway, sorry for the interruption. And if a person wants to know his position, he has to send a signal to the sky by the terminal. Actually, there are minimum 2 satellites are required. So the 2 satellites received the signal, whatever sent by the terminal. The 2 satellites send an accurate time when each received the signal to the ground station. The ground station calculates the longitude and altitude based on the principle of distance is equal to time into velocity. Velocity is your speed of light. and the ground station gets an altitude from the database of relief map. Generally, the altitudes will be there in the relief maps, and it is already available at various position of longitude and longitude. And with this one, you can have from the relief map, you can take the altitude at that 2D position, and you can get the 3D position. This is the minimum satellite. Otherwise, you can use third satellite to find out the altitude also.
I think he is having some network issue. We have to ask Devraj to upload the presentation. Devraj, can you talk to Namah Shivaya?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Talking, sir. Talking.
Yeah.
Sir, Sangamkar, sir, spoken to Secretary, sir.
Yeah.
He said actually laptop is restarting. I said to forward PPT.
Correct.
But it is in laptop itself. He prepared in the laptop. That's why he said.
But he has got the power there, no?
Yeah, power is there, sir. Some loose contact with some.
Okay.
Station.
Right.
2 minutes, sir. 2 minutes.
Right.
Really very sorry, sir. Just
No, it's okay. These are the problems.
Actually, due to some power problem.
Yeah, it
So
can happen.
the whole PPT is in this laptop actually. Okay, anyway, just before sharing the PPT, I will continue my webinar. So actually, once you find out the position, generally this altitude, the altitude also you can find out the relief maps. Otherwise, you can use another satellites. We can, by means of 3 satellites, we'll get the 3D position. As we are already discussed, the time plays very important role to find out the 3D position. So generally, this our GPS receivers use quartz crystal clocks, which are not so costly, and whereas satellites using atomic clocks, which are so costly, and we cannot afford that type of atomic clocks in our receiver. So that means the time, there is a small difference between definitely the time of these receivers as well as the satellites. So there is a small delta time. You may be getting some offset of time. So total 3 unknowns, that is latitude, longitude, and altitude. And the 4th unknown is your offset time. Then once you know the offset time, then you can find out the accurate position to find out the 3D position. So that means the total how many unknowns? So latitude, longitude, altitude, as well as the time offset to find out the time difference between your quartz clock as well as the atomic clocks. So total 4 satellites are required to find out the 3D position of any object or where I am actually. So with the help of this one, so minimum satellites required is 4 actually. So as you are aware, there are so many countries launched this satellite navigation systems. Of course, one is very famous. Everybody knows the GPS, Global Positioning System. No need to tell nowadays about the GPS because in your daily routine life, it plays very, very important role, and which is actually the US people, US government actually launched during for their military purpose use, military use, and later on which is used for the open for the public also. So in this GPS satellites, we have so many satellites, about 24 satellites are minimum required to in 3 orbits. So each orbit, we are having the various satellite pods. With the help of this GPS, nowadays we are using all your finding the position and etc. So like other countries also having the various other navigation systems like Russia, GLONASS, and European Gilolia, and these are the various other navigation systems that also. So mostly sometimes it is used, they are working, sometimes they are not working. And of course, GPS is the one where it is continuously working. And of course, nowadays, GLONASS and Gilolia also working. And in this scenario, India doesn't have any own navigation system, and we are all depending upon the GPS. So in this, I will show you once the PPT is switch on, then I will show you the architecture of GPS also. And in this GPS, we are using enormous applications nowadays. No need to tell again. So without GPS, our day will not go. Actually, we want to say, because wherever you want to go nowadays, this navigation is so playing very important role for your not only just for traveling applications. So many applications we are using this GPS signals. So we are all depending upon the these other countries' navigation systems. And also now we are using our own navigation systems. Already we are for years long together we are using this one. And before going to the own navigation systems, so we are having some augmentation also. What is this augmentation? So to improve the accuracy, some applications, let us say some Airport Authority of India, so which is require more accuracy as compared to their civilian applications. So in that case, we require more accuracy. So then we can, instead of for the primary, apart from the primary navigation system, and we are using some augmentation system to improve the accuracy. So like this, we know that Gagan is one of the augmentation system. Actually, these augmentation systems are 3. One is GBOS, SBOS, ABOS. What is GBOS? Ground-based augmentation system. That is, and also SBOS is satellite-based augmentation system. And ABOS, aircraft-based augmentation system. So these are the various augmentation systems. Of course, without primary augmentation systems, primary system, we cannot use these augmentation systems. These are all mostly GPS-based augmentation system. GPS-based augmentation systems. So for the existing system, we have so many augmentation systems, particularly for the GPS. And Airport Authority of India and ISRO. And together, they launched the Gagan augmented systems, particularly for using for air traffic control. Airport Authority of India and ISRO, both they are launched the Gagan system, so which is using for air traffic control particularly. And like this, each country is having the various navigation systems, various augmentation systems also, and we are using that one also as augmentation systems. And apart from that, once we are using, as I told, these GLONASS, Gilolia, and GPS all are global-based navigation systems. That means where it covers the whole world, whole area. And whereas recently our India also having, apart from the Gagan, which is a simple augmented systems, we are having a own regional-based navigation system known as IRNSS. So it is not a globally covered, but it's independent, and where we can have our own navigation systems, but it is a regional based. So India and surrounding 1500 kilometers, we can be able to operate by using this Indian navigation system. So this is IRNSS. Of course, the operational name, we can call it as a NAVIC actually. And that also nowadays almost ready to launch that one also. Just now I restarted the PPT, just I'll share the PPT.
You can mute one of the systems.
Yes, sir. Yes, already over, sir. PPT is opening. Just I'm sharing. Suddenly that extension was not working. I didn't observe that one. So I will show you the video. So where is the Gagan is launching.
In 5 years, Indian airspace will get so crowded, chances of such accidents will increase. That's why India started work on Gagan, traffic and directional guidance from outer space.
The footprint of the Gagan, the satellite, will be far more than what is only our Indian airspace. It extends all the way into Africa. It extends all the way beyond the South Asia and deep into the Indian Ocean.
The Gagan project receives GPS or global positioning signals from international satellites, but it boosts their accuracy, locking a plane's position anywhere in India to within 3 meters. It does that by tracking those satellites from 15 locations across India and comparing and correcting their data in Bangalore. When this refined data is beamed to our pilots, they'll be able to navigate without fear, even in bad weather. land at geographically tough airports like Mangalore and Leh, and plot shorter, direct flights to destinations. With exact info on plane location, more flights will land safely at our airports every hour. All of which means you'll reach home faster and safer. To remove our dependence on foreign GPS signals, the Indian Space Research Organization plans to launch 7 Indian satellites in the next 5 years. When that's complete, we'll be the 4th in the world, after America, Russia, and Europe, to run our own GPS network. In New Delhi, I'm Jaimon Joseph.
So this is a video about the Gagan launch actually, which is a GPS based augmentation system. We're really very sorry for the inconvenience. Can you able to see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And various satellite navigation systems from the beginning: Sputnik, Transit, Sekor, ISCON, Escada, etc. And 1978, we are moving to the GPS, the Global Navigation Satellite Systems. And GNSS. What is the GNSS actually? GNSS is a standard generic form for satellite navigation systems that provide autonomous geospatial positioning with global coverage. So which gives your global coverage for whole the navigation. A GNSS allows small electronic receivers to determine their location, that is location 3D position, latitude, longitude, and altitude, with a few meters up to time signals transmitted by line of sight from radio to satellites. And as on 2007, United States Navstar GPS, that is global positioning system, is the only fully operational GNSS. And afterwards, Russia also enters another global navigation system that is known as GNSS, the GLONASS, and also European also in the scheduled in operation 2010, that is Gilolia, etc. And China also having regional based navigation systems, BIDU navigation system. And GNSS you can classify into 2 categories, GNSS 1 and GNSS 2. The first and second generations. The first generations are the navigation systems which are using these augmentation systems. The first generation system is a combination of the existing navigation systems along with some augmentation system to improve the accuracy. That is SBOS systems and GBOS systems, that is ground-based navigation systems as well as the satellite-based navigation systems. And in the United States also, there are various SBOS systems and as well as the GBOS systems. And examples are VAS is one of the SBOS systems, and European also IGNOS, and Japan also MSOS, and multifunctional satellite navigation systems, and also LOS, local-based augmentation systems. These are the various augmentations each country having, but of course all are based on the GPS only. And whereas GNSS2 is the second generation of systems that independently provide full civilian satellite navigation systems, exemplified by the European Gilolia positioning system. These systems will provide the accuracy and integrity and monitoring necessary for civil navigation. Of course, civil navigation doesn't require much accuracies, whereas sometimes there's military application, etc., which require more accuracies. The system consists of L1 and L2 frequencies for civil use and L5 for system integrity. The development is also in progress to provide GPS with civil use L2 and L5. Of course, now already it is existing. And infrastructure of GNSS. The core navigation systems currently GPS, Gilolia, GLONASS, which is a global coverage. And ground-based augmentation systems are OmniStar and Starfire, and regional SBOS systems, VAS, IGNOS, MSOT, and Gagan. Just now we are seeing about the Gagan. The regional satellite navigation systems such as QZSS, which is by Japan, and India IRNSS and BIDU. These are all independent navigation systems, but it is regionally. It doesn't cover the whole globe. The continental scale-based GBOS systems exemplified that Australian GROS and US Department of Transportation Navigation Differential DGPS differential systems, and also local GBOS typified by a single GPS reference station operating real-time kinematic corrections. And these are the simple differences between the various GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, etc. Number of satellites, 24 is the minimum requirement in the GPS. Some 3 to 8 spare satellites, that is 24, it may vary up to 32, 30 like this. And GLONASS also 25 plus 3 to 10 spare, and Galileo 30. Orbital period 11 hours 58 minutes once to finish the orbit, and whereas GLONASS 11 hours 16 minutes and 14 etc. And the frequencies what we are using GPS is 1575.445 and 1227.6. Like this, the various frequencies and coding techniques. CDMA are using by GPS. And FDMA, CDMA, and CDMA, these are the various techniques. And the status is fully operational, almost even Galileo also fully operational. So GPS is the first one-way passive ranging satellite, because in the navigation system, only receiver can be able to send only one way. It is not a two-way, like a communication, like a mobile phone. You cannot get any, you cannot send any signals from receiver to satellites, only have to receive that. The principal objective of the DoD is to offer US military accurate estimates of position, velocity, and time, PVT, position, velocity, and time for high dynamics platform, and also within a velocity error about 0.1 meters per second and time error about 100 nanoseconds in all RMS. Signals should have a measure of resistance to jamming and interference. That is why transmission of signals on the same carrier is being done using CDMA. And provision to deny to use of US adversaries, and at the same time enhancing the accuracy over the geographical location on a limited time. And this is your GPS constellation, and these are the red lines are the orbits, and the green points are the satellites. So it is a GPS constellation which is rotating in 3 orbits and 6 satellites for various orbits. And a position of satellite is known. It is the electronic almanac of the receiver. The speed of the radio signal from each satellite is known. Timing allows the calculation of distance from each satellite. Using triangulation principle, the position of the receiver is calculated. So this is a simple principle. So where you the sea, the land, in the air. So total 4 satellites, which is used to find out the 3D position, and that is latitude, longitude, and altitude. And another satellite you are using to find out the offset time, difference between the time of the atomic and quadrilateral clocks. Each satellite sends information on its location, and the time code is sent. It sends a code that allows the measurement of distance to the satellite. If 4 satellites are visible, a single receiver can measure locations with 100 meters and 95% of the time. So this is a simple GPS. So it is a 24 operational satellite as on September 29, 1998. These are the various operational live picture actually. That is a real picture. And now let us see the configuration of GPS. Not only for GPS, any GNS system is having the same configuration, and which is consists of 3 types of segments: space segment, control segment, and user segment. What is space segment? Space segment is nothing but the number of satellites. So where 24 normally is using GPS, and control segment is the ground stations, tracking stations, and ground antennas, master control stations, monitor stations, all comes under control segment. So a control segment is which tracks the satellites and measures the uploads, MFRS data, clock data, and etc., which controls the orbital parts of all. And the user segment, and your receivers and other things, whoever the user tracks the satellite signals, downloads the data, and compute position, velocity, and time, all comes under user segment. And also, of course, the GPS also facing errors. These are the various source of errors. So one is the satellite clock errors and receiver clock errors, FRMS errors, selective availability, relativistic errors, atmospheric errors, receiver noise, multipath. So we try to eliminate so many types of errors by various methods, and some we cannot be able to eliminate, and we'll try to minimize the errors And some errors like atmospheric errors and etc. we cannot remove it, but we can be able to estimate it. Once we can be able to estimate it, then we can be able to do some correction. So like this, some errors we can eliminate it, some errors we can be able to estimate it, and some errors we can be able to try to minimize the errors as far as possible concerned. So these are the errors at various positions which are available. So starting from your orbital error, clock error, etc. at the satellite position, and ionospheric refraction and tropospheric refraction. Again, it is atmospheric errors which is occurred here, and again multipath errors, receiver noise at the ground station. So whereas this, once we are seeing the path, you see, so once it is the signal is traveling through ionosphere, and it may not be able to travel with the direct line of sight. It may delay. The signal may delay. So due to this one, the accuracies, the distance, you may not be able to get correctly. The time traveling signal also may not be able to correctly. That's why you are unable to find out the accurate position. So for that, so many algorithms are developed and so many research is going on in these areas to find out we cannot eliminate it, but only can be able to find out the exact delay. Then we can be able to correct so that we find out the accurate position. So these are the four unknowns and four equations we can be able to find out. So P1, P2, P3, four equations and four unknowns. One is latitude, longitude, and altitude, as well as the time offset. By four satellites, four equations you can be able to find out. So let us say about the next GNSS system, GLONASS. The formerly Soviet, now Russian, a global navigation system is GLONASS, and which is a fully functional navigation constellation. And also our India also participated in the restoration during 2010, etc. And due to some reasons, again, it is not functional immediately as on scheduled time. And afterwards, now of course, it is a fully operational system. So it is a GLONASS logo. The GLONASS logo of Russian navigation system is one of the GLONASS satellites. So So the GLONASS, parallel constellation to GPS, which is almost a global coverage like GPS, and constellation was fully operational in 1995 and 80. And afterwards, there are some troubles is happening. And as of now, the constellation is almost complete and is operational. GLONASS is created to provide precise universal time coordinated transfer for better position accuracy. And India also helping in the completion of this GLONASS also during 2010. And another one is Russian, that is a Gilolia. It is named after the Italian astronomer Galileo Galilei. The Gilolia positioning system is referred as Gilolia instead of abbreviation GPS. It is like a Gilolia. There is no abbreviation like a global position system in USA. So that's why you can call it as Gilolia only. Otherwise, GPS is confusing whether it's Gilolia positioning or global positioning. So GPS is the US-based global position system, and Gilolia, we can call it as Gilolia only, the Russian. So built by European Satellite Navigation Industries for the European Union and European Space Agency as an alternative to the GPS and GLONASS. The Gilolia operating company, the concession holder and private consortium running in Gilolia, which is having the main headquarters in France. And it is also having 30 spacecrafts, and total 30 is required. Orbital altitude is 23,222 kilometers and 3 orbits, and with a 56 degrees inclination of each satellite. And satellite lifetime is more than 12 years, and the satellite mass is around 675. And of course, the dimensions, specifications of the various satellites. So is of course is honored by the name of scientist the Gilolia, and is a Gilolia logo. And these are various services, Gilolia services. Gilolia satellites only serve open services, safety offline, commercial, public regulated, etc. So many services. Like almost all nowadays, we are having the various services. And these are the various frequencies, just a comparison at a glance: GPS, Gilolia, and these are the various band of frequencies and etc. So compass, the China's compass, IRNS, Gaggan, and etc. And is a table which shows the comparison of all chipping rate, modulation techniques, bandwidths, etc., power requirements, and etc. of GPS services. And it is a Gilolia services. Of course, so there is no need explanation for this specifications. And it's a GLONASS. And the limitations of GPS and GLONASS. So what are the limitations actually? Why should you go for this augmentation systems? GPS standalone cannot satisfy the integrity, accuracy, availability. There are three main things are there, which are integrity, accuracy, and availability. For all phases of flight, particularly for the most stringent precision approaches. Integrity is not guaranteed since all satellites may not be satisfactorily working all times. And time to alarm could be from minutes to hours, and there is no indication of quality of service. Accuracy is not sufficient, even SCA, that is selective availability. Actually, what is selective availability is the intentional degradation. Is intentionally added the error to hijack for any Naxalites and etc. So intentionally it is added error, and of course now it is removed actually. So accuracy may not be sufficient. With vertical accuracy about 95% of the time is more than 10 meters. For GPS and GLONASS, standalone systems availability continuity are not assured. So all these calls for a special system addressing all the above, which can be done by augmenting GNSS system. So that's why to overcome these limitations, we can go for the augmentation systems. So requirement of enhancement of accuracy and availability of integrity. For safety critical applications, it is essential that a user be assured that the system is operating within the design tolerances and the position estimates derived from it can be trusted within the specifications. So that is known as integrity requirements. Particularly for this Airport Authority of India, it may not be able to compromise these accuracies and other things. Timely warning system, anomaly which may be hazardous, called time to alarm. So immediately it can be able to alarm within few seconds. 30 seconds en route and 60 seconds AVP 1.5 requirements of this Airport Authority. So for that reason, the standalone systems we are not using, and we are using the standalone systems along with some augmentation systems. So the limitations of these standalone systems are signal not available inside the tunnels and water sometimes because line of sight is required. No assurance of availability and integrity of data, critical for aviation applications and accuracy requirements and etc. So that's why you can go for the augmentation systems. So I told you already the three types of augmentation systems: space-based augmentation systems, SBAS, the examples of WAS, IGNAS, EMSAS, and Gaggan. So these are the various other countries: IGNAS, WAS, EMSAS, Japan, and etc. And Gaggan is our Indian augmentation systems, which is developed by Airport Authority of India and ISRO. So which is the GPS-based augmentation systems. And ground-based augmentation systems, GBAS, LAS, Pseudolite, DGPS, etc. Examples for GBAS systems, particularly you are using for harbors and etc. for ship tracking and etc. We are using this GBAS systems for low range. In aircraft-based augmentation systems, ABAS, RIME, Receiver Autonomous Integrity Monitoring Technique, which is very costly refined. This augmentation systems also having in the airport, the aircrafts actually, ABAS, which is particularly using for wars and etc. So that we'll get the accuracy in that region, any region actually. Now, typical augmentation systems, these are typical augmentation systems, just now what we were discussed actually. So these are the various countries, the WAS, IGNAS, the Gaggan India, EMSAS, QZSS, China, there's a BDO, Compass, and etc. These are the various countries having these augmentation systems. All are GPS-based augmentation systems. So now let us see the Indian scenario in GNSS. What is our country? Because particularly till now we are discussed about the global scenario, and let us see the Indian scenario. The satellite position systems, SPS in IRS and scientific satellites and Gaggan. Participation in Gilolia and GLONASS. Already we are participated some tie-up with these countries also. And now at present we are having our own regional constellation IRNSS. Ionospheric tropospheric studies and modeling also we are doing in India. India may become the biggest user of GNSS for GIS applications, mobile applications, surveying, mining, fishing, aviation, road, rail, transport, etc. So many places we are using these navigation systems. And this is the Gagan. So Gagan also is a Indian-based satellite-based augmented system. This is SBOSS. Gagan coverage is India and around 1500 kilometers. So this is Gagan architecture. And once you are observing this one, these are the GPS satellites. These are the GPS satellites, and these are the Gagan satellites. Gagan satellite, GSAT and INSAT, geo satellites. And along with these are the Gagan control stations, INMCC and INLUS, INRES. These are the Gagan reference stations and control stations, which are located in Bangalore. And with the help of these Gagan satellites, and these are the GEO, 2 satellites will be there, GEO, GSAT and INSAT, and GEO L1, L5 frequencies you are using. And these two are using along with the GPS satellites to get the signals, and which satisfies the integrity, etc., and to find out the accurate positions. The Gagan users, who are the Gagan users? Particularly this aircraft control, and apart from that, other users also we can use it. That is, they are giving for even for the train and fleet control, transport systems, harbors, and others. Mainly, it is developed for the aviation economy, and others also they are using this Gagan applications. So total 3 geo satellites will be there, 3 uplink stations will be there, 2 control stations will be there for the Gagan architecture. This is SBOSS. So this is your all Gagan reference stations. 15 reference stations will be there for the Gagan. And Gagan payload on GSAT-8, completion of ground and other orbit test. GSAT-8 is carrying Gagan payload, launched in 2001, May 2011, and INLUS is subsystem tested and evaluated. GSAT-8 Gagan payload IoT completed, reports provided RTM, and review acceptance from the RTM. So these are the Gagan payload stations. So concept of SBOSS system is like this. So total, once we are having any airport authority and other things, and we can be able to get the GPS signals, and also apart from that, we can be able to get the SBOSS signals by using this augmentation-based satellite. So these are the performance requirements for the Airport Authority of India. So for enrouting domestic, for the terminals, approach, surface, and etc. These are the various specifications required for CAT specifications for the Airport Authority of India. To ensure that these requirements, we are using this Gagan. We are designed a Gagan. So these are the aviation requirements. Accuracy should be less than 7.6 meters with 95% horizontal and vertical. And also it should have a time to alarm. It should give any problem is there within 6 seconds. You can be able to expect it. And the probability of information the user is wrong, misleading information should not exceed 1 in about 47 years. So that type of integrity required. Any wrong information, anything, it should not exceed 1 error in 47 years. Continuity and availability, and 99% time to 100% over the regional of interest. So these are the various errors I shown earlier. We discussed about the errors: GPS, FMS errors, clock errors, ionospheric errors, tropospheric errors, multipath, etc. These errors should be within this budget. Once we are using this SBOSS, so these errors should be only within this region. Then accuracy you may get up to 1.1 meter. And benefits of SBOSS: primary means navigation, takeoff, en route, approach, and landing. So all we can be able to ensure by means of SBOSS, and more direct routes, not restricted by location of G-based equipment, and precision approach capability, and decommissioning of older, expensive ground-based navigation equipment, reduced and simplified equipment on onboard aircraft, increased capacity, reduced separation due to improved accuracy. So these are the benefits once we are using these SBOSS systems. And of course, this is a region which is covered. This red one is a region which covered this SBOSS system for India. So India SBOSS program Gagan. GPS, what is the full form of Gagan is GPS aided geo augmented navigation. So this INMCC and INLUS are the Gagan stations, and INRES, etc. And the GPS satellites, and these are the geo satellites, which are Gagan satellites. So these are Gagan coverage. So these are the Gagan reference stations, INMCC, the master control facility, and Gagan uplink frequency reference stations, etc., which are situated in Bangalore. So these are the format message, SBOS messages format. Each bit signifies the various contents, which is 64 bits, and these are the bit informations we are transmitting. And Gagan reference stations. So, and this total, these are the various reference stations: Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Delhi, Gauti, Jammu, Calcutta, Port Blair, Trivandrum, Panji, Porbandar, Bhopal, etc. and Bikaner. And these are the various stations which are available. And Gagan TEC stations, and our Hyderabad also have an airport with the TEC stations. And now this is about Gagan. Gagan, of course, it is a simple augmented systems based on for the GPS. Now let us see NAVIC. What is our NAVIC? So NAVIC with Indian constellation. The Indian Regional Navigation Satellite Systems, IRNSS, with an operational name NAVIC, Sailor, Navigator in Sanskrit, Hindi, and many more Indian languages, which also stands for Navigation with Indian Constellation, is an autonomous regional satellite navigation system. It is independent navigation system like GPS, GLONASS, and Gilolia, but only the thing is, difference is, it is a regional based. It is a regional based. It may not be cover whole globe, and can be used to provide accurate real-time positioning and timing service over India and the region extending 1500 kilometers, 930 miles around India. The NAVIC system consists of 3 constellation satellites, GeoOrbit and GeoSatellites 3 and 4 satellites geosynchronous orbit, and approximately 36,000 kilometers, that is 20,000 miles altitude above the Earth surface, and 2 satellites on the ground as standby, in addition to the ground stations. The system was developed because the access to foreign government-controlled global navigation satellite system is not guaranteed in hostile situations, and as happened in Indian military in 1999, when it is independent on the American GPS during Kargil war. So that's why, at least at the time, we decided to have our own navigation system. So that the Indian government approved the project in May 2006, and now, of course, it is came into picture, and almost it is now ready to use this IRNSS. So IRNSS, Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, total 7 satellites, 3 are geostationary and 4 are geosynchronous, and orbit altitude is around 36,000 kilometers, and the cost of the project is 1,420 crores. That is estimated. I don't know what is the final cost, what is happening due to the delay of the time, etc. So it covers India up to 1,500 kilometers beyond the borders. 3 extremely accurate rubidium atomic clocks in each satellites. As we are discussed, the rubidium atomic clocks we are using the satellites. We are using 3 extremely accurate rubidium atomic clocks we are using. GPS receivers will not work. Need special receivers yet to be developed, of course. And IRNSS provides standard positioning systems and open to all users. Accuracy better than 20 meters. The 4 satellites in geosynchronous orbit in pairs move to included orbits, appear from the ground to travel and figure eight assisted in accurate position accuracies. 3 satellites in geostationary orbit and appear from ground to be the first positions in the sky. So this is the architecture of this IRNSS. So IRNSS, India's own GPS, and IRNSS NAVIC will be used to provide accurate real-time positioning and timing services. IT will provide navigation services for civilian as well as the military applications. So these IRNS constellations, total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 satellites. So IRNSS is proposed an autonomous regional satellite navigation to be constructed and controlled by the Indian government. It is intended to provide the absolute position accuracy better than 20 meters throughout the India, with the region extending approximately about 1,500 to 2,000 kilometers. 1,500 more accuracy, with less accuracy up to 2,000 you can be able to cover. A goal of complete Indian control have been started with a space segment and ground segment and user receivers all being built in India. The government approved the project in 2006 May, and with the intention to be completed within 6 to 7 years. As you are all aware, this budget's problem and etc. Now it is came into picture. It is unclear if the recent dealings with Russian to restore the GLONASS also. Of course, it is also participated the government with the GLONASS also sometimes, and also spent some time also. IRNS architecture. So again, as I told, the space segment, ground segment, and user segment. And space segment, 7 satellites and 3 satellite vehicles in geostationary and 4 satellite in geosynchronous. The configuration takes care of continuity of service with the failure of one satellite. The satellites are 1-ton class with a navigation payload of 1 or 2 and kgs and power consumption of 676 watts. There's a 2 downlinks S and L and S bands providing dual frequency operation, and the payload will have a 3 rubidium clocks. And whereas a ground segment, a master control center, IRNS is ranging and integrated monitoring stations, IRIM, and IRNS telemetry and command stations, and navigation control center, and IRNS network timing center. So it is all consisting of ground segment and user segment, of course. And these are the various 7 satellites which is starting the launching from July 1st, 2013, 14, 2 satellites, again 15, 1 more satellite, 16, 3 more satellites. And of course, this is the format for the navigation message type 5, 7, 9, 11. These are the 7 defined and 57 available for the future. Total 64. Out of this one, 7 only defined, 7 is available for the future. And current status and update of this NAVIC. So NAVIC is fully operational and is doing a great job. Currently, 8 satellites are already in orbit. The Indian regional navigation satellites or NAVIC is capable of providing accuracy, position information services to the users across India and region extending up to 1500 kilometers around the country. NAVIC based trackers are compulsory in commercial vehicles in India, and some consumer mobile phones with the support it have been available since the first half of 2020. There are plans to expand the NAVIC system by increasing constellation size to 7 to 11 also. Still, it is not completed. Is NAVIC better than GPS? Yes, naturally, because it is having a single frequency. GPS uses a single frequency band and makes calculations a bit more complex. And NAVIC satellites uses a dual frequency bands, L5 and as well as the S band, which is why the system is relatively more accurate than GPS. And that uses a single band and makes compensation for error due to signal deterioration by atmosphere. And constellation is operational and follow-on satellite is under realization with indigenous atomic clock is expected to the third quarter of 2020. Proposal to introduce SPS service, that is standard positioning service for civil users, and whereas L1 frequency band coming up to satellites, IRNS, IJ onwards. And primary service area, which are bounded with the latitude of 5 degrees south to 550 degrees north, and longitude 55 east to 110 east. And to have a compatibility and interoperability with the new L1C signal of GNSS providers, is a two-way satellite time frequency between NAVIC system, time and National Physical Laboratories NPL Delhi for traceability. NAVIC is offering short messaging service for the users in India throughout by IRNS IA spacecraft. And NAVIC is incorporated in AIS 140, that is Automotive Industry Standard. As per the Indian government, it is a mandate for the all public transport vehicles in India shall be equipped with vehicle tracking devices adhering to IAS 140. So that's why recently already our nameplates also changed actually, but still it is not fully working, where it can be able to, by means of this nameplate, what we are using our vehicles, we can be able to track the vehicle anywhere. The NAVIC also incorporated the NMEA 0183 standard developed by National Maritime Electronic Association, and global standards body 3GPP is developed protocols for mobile telephony, has included NAVIC for assistance GNS support. NAVIC was included in the release 16 LTE specification also. And NAVIC is available on Play Store. As recently, Qualcomm has introduced the new CPU, that is a Snapdragon 720G and Snapdragon 622 and Snapdragon 460 processors designed for the budget and mid-range Android smartphones, and will use the NAVIC positioning system for location services. So this is the first time the NAVIC technology has been introduced in new chips by Qualcomm. And how to check whether your telephone is having the NAVIC detection or not? Yes, you can be able to install check NAVIC support on your smartphone, install GPS test or GNSS test applications on your Android for smartphone. Once you open, install the tab Start Test. So already the place there, Start Test will be there. The app is now start detecting all navigation satellites available. So you can test it whether it is can be able to receive these NAVIC signals or not. If the app shows an Indian satellites, it means if app shows Indian satellites. But once the start test is there, then it shows all your navigation satellites. If it is showing Indian satellites, that means your phone is compatible to receive this NavIC support. And of course, the next feature phones definitely it is having the capacity. And of course, these are the various NavIC chips which is generated by various industries, ISRO and Pioneer. These are the various ICs which are developed by the various our Indian navigation systems, NavIC. And this is the main difference between the IRNSS and Gagan. So what is a NavIC? Don't confuse here. Both are independent, both are different. And IRNS is the independent, this self-reliant navigation. Whereas Gagan is, it is independent, it is an augmentation system for the GPS. So IRNSS, Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, that is IRNSS, operational name is NavIC, provides SPS and RS. SPS means civilian application standard positioning system, which is a less accuracy as compared with your restricted services. That is for military and other accurate services only. It is a paid services normally. This restricted service in L5 and S band. Services area in India and its islands and area bounded with a latitude of 5 degrees south to 50 degrees north and longitude 55 degrees east to 110 degrees east. That is up to 1500 kilometers around India. And whereas the Gagan, this GPS aided geo augmented navigation, and which is a GPS based augmented system, and provides air navigation service over Indian FIR, and Gagan is certified for RNP 0.1 and APV 1.0. So both are navigation systems, but it is independent navigation system, it is augmentation system. So this IRNS coverage, this is a coverage of IRNSs. And applications, of course, what not, everywhere in your future life, you can have the GNS applications. And navigation, particularly spacecraft, aircraft, ship, vehicle, all we can be able to track. And geographic data collections, mapping, surveying, engineering applications, and scientific research and atmospheric studies. And so much research is going on in these areas also to find out the atmospheric studies, so that to get the accurate, that is what is the actual error we are getting, and so what is the time difference we are getting, what is the delay you are getting in the single time, so that you can be able to get the, you can adjust it and find out the accuracy more accurately. And geodynamics, cluster movements, crustal deformations and military applications, natural resource and land management, GIS ingest, forest mineralization, town planning, fleet movement, routing and alignment, and monitoring the health tall buildings of towers, long bridges, and etc. Power grid synchronization, and in agriculture, precision farming, and emergency response, search and rescue, business solutions, location-based services, mobile, tourism, retail, banking, etc. So what not, almost in your future life without navigation you cannot. So just like a mobile phone, how we are having, so nowadays you should have a navigation facility in your mobile phone itself, definitely. So current GNS applications, personal navigations, automotive applications, departure to destination without derouting, detouring, weak signal navigation, marine applications, space and missile applications, geodesy survey, town planning, bridges, tall building, health monitoring, agriculture, forest land, natural resource exploration, epic demarcation and control, and scientific application related to PNVT. And these are the various assisted GNS applications. So that is assisted GNS positioning algorithms, satellite positioning system, GPS, Gilolia, GLONASS, etc. And satellite positioning augmentation systems, IGNAS, VAS, etc. And inertial navigation systems implemented in the rover itself. Accelerometer, barometer is an inertial navigation systems. And terrestrial positioning systems, LORAN-C, etc. And fixed telecommunication nodes with short range wireless data communications equipped with Bluetooth and VLAN. And location servers, mobile communications. These are the various assisted GNS applications. And now this is about the GNSS, our Indian Synoria. And any doubts, any clarification before going to the emerging demands? Anything, shall we discuss anything? So these are the total Synoria of your GNSS and also our Indian participation in the GNSS by means of Gagan as well as the IRNSS. So let us go for the emerging demands. So navigation via signals of opportunity, NavSop, indoor navigation. So these are the various emerging demands. To counter the limitations, use the same wireless technologies as mobile phones, TVs, radios, and Wi-Fi. Greater resistance utilizes wider range of signals, generating huge excitement in both civilian as well as the military circles. Real game changer when it comes to navigation, promises positive civilian impact that is helps fire and rescue services. So these are the various applications which are demanding. And IMES, Indoor Messaging Service. The main concept of IMES is to transmit position and a floor ID of the transmitter with the same RF signal as GPS. IMES transmits latitude, longitude, height, and floor ID by replacing the FMS and clock data in the navigation message of GPS. A signal unit of IMES is enough to get the position data since the position itself is directly transmitted. So while you are in a multi-storage buildings, so it is very essential, each floor having the ID and etc. and where you can be able to do it. And of course, nowadays our Telangana government also started digital numbering for each and houses and all commercial blocks and etc. Your house number is replacing by digital numbers. So once you entered your digital number, immediately you get the location. Already started in Hyderabad, so it slowly it will be expanded to all over the city and all over the Telangana. And once you are getting a digital number, just simply entering your number, not necessary to enter the area, pin code, and colony, etc. Just you can enter the digital number, you will get the position. It is very easy. And localization. Localization refers the process of determining the object location in space. Indoor localization is the location of objects or people inside the building using light waves, acoustics, radio waves, etc. It is referred as tracking objects in an indoor environment. Is a localization. So these are the various of research opportunities and areas of research and development in positioning and timing systems. Science, inotropo modeling in equatorial region in L-band, radio occultation studies for near Earth atmospheric temperature profile, real-time weather forecasting. And the technology side, region orbits, time synchronization, development of navigation software, atomic clock, rubidium, cesium, hydrogen measures, and isoflux antennas for spacecraft, dual receivers, dual receiver chips already developed by RC and etc. So many people, GPS and GLONASS, multi chips actually. It is GPS and GLONASS, GPS and Gilolia, and the same you can use it for Navic also. Accurate estimate of phase delays on board satellite. So what are the issues related with the GNSR? Intentional and unintentional interferences, multipath, indoor and urban environment, overcrowding of frequency spectra, need for higher anti-jamming margins, protection of RNSS and radio astronomy bands, continuity of existing and planned constellations, ionospheric and solar weather impact on GNSS signals, and these are standardization of civil signals and receivers, universal time and reference frames. Each constellation of the today has adopted different time and geodetic references frames. So these are the various issues where you can be able to challenge in the future. So after all, we need measurements of space and time for almost all our activities, and GNSS provides the same. And for emerging civil aviation scenario, less than 5 years, all airlines should equip with the aircraft with SBOS, that is Gagan receivers, and integration with FMS. Since Gagan will be reality in next 2 years, and of course now it is almost came, Gagan is help in operation into a small airports for aircraft as well as the heli services. All these will get further augmented by IRNSS, which is future does have potential to expand, will provide better navigational facility to specified users, surveyors, transporters, and various other users with 100% availability and better accuracies. The PNT accuracies can be enhanced if receivers use other constellations. So generally, we are influencing so much for this GNSS nowadays, and particularly this even this RTA people, this registration, government registration for particularly for the plot registration, etc. So once you want to register a plot, so that is all four ends. 4 ends will be actually fixed by means of your points. All the 3D positions then suppose anybody, again, you have a another plot is registration, you can find out the positions, you can find out the 3D positions of each and every point. And once it is matched with the other points, definitely it is we can say it is a already encroached part or something, and which is we cannot be able to register. That should be done. Definitely it is more and more users to the public also. So once we are going for a registration of a plot, nowadays the re-registration is happening, and same plot is registering to so many people and etc. So by means of this GNSS and IRNSS, we can be able to avoid such a type of things. And accurate position there, of course, it require more accuracies than identifying a particular building or particular space and etc. So in that case, the more accuracies are required. So like that, once it is happening, definitely it is useful for the public also. So you can fix up, and directly in the registration document itself, we can be able to all four corners. You can be able to locate. You can print it directly in the registration document also. That is also a good thing. Of course, we may be expecting very soon also. So hence, GNSS will influence in our life more than any other technological advent in our life. So definitely, the GNSS is a must and should, which is required for your daily routine life. Okay. So thank you, sir, and, for your patient listening.
Excellent exposure.
Yeah, sorry for the inconvenience.
Thank you, Namaskar Garu. Excellent presentation.
Very good presentation.
Thank you.
Now the session is open for the interaction. If anybody has got a questions, they can.
It is a very good presentation. They can navigate us from the history to the present status of the navigation.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
But
Sorry for the
I think you have navigated almost very
problem. It
nice.
is there is interruption actually. I never expect. Today only it is
No,
happening.
that's okay, sir. Reliability problems will be always there. Sir,
Yeah.
I thought you would be covering some future trends in GNSS also.
Yeah, we can have it, sir. Future trends also definitely, because that all depends upon the applications, sir. Future trends also, because I didn't discuss about applications in detail. So we can each and every application. So many types are there actually. Almost like RTA, each and every department can have the trends. So what I just now discussed, the registration part is also future trend. Definitely an expert, sir. Definitely.
Okay.
And
So this was done at a short notice.
Let the student think what are the other applications they can have out of this. Maybe
Sir.
a little bit more added technology. They can think about
Yes.
that as if their projects.
So this
Yes,
was
sir.
done at a short notice. Today's webinar, somebody else was supposed to give, but that gap has been filled by our Honorable Secretary Namesh Roy. So he has done his best.
It is not a short notice, it is sweet notice.
Yeah.
It is a good presentation. In fact, I will supplement to the presentation made by Namaste Bhai Garu.
Yeah.
I had opportunity to directly work in late 90s on the project, the rather program of ISRO on Gagan, wherein the task was given that a single frequency GPS receiver user can augment the facility provided by this Gagan network of some of the augmentation systems provided to the payloads at geostationary orbit.
Yeah.
So I happened to work with Gagan team on mostly the ionospheric part of it, which is a predominant error in the GPS error budget. Main aim was to meet the category 1 precision 1 approach landing accuracy at a decision height of roughly 300 feet for all the domestic aircrafts landing in the Indian airspace. That was the mandate of Airport Authority of India. We could provide suitable algorithms which was implemented, and now Gagan is in execution phase. So, believing that IRNSS is going to give a better kind of navigation accuracy, a standalone mode, and augmented mode also definitely, because you are having multiple kind of GNSS systems in place, so you can have a better augmented result as far as precision approach landing of aircrafts are concerned. Other applications, major applications we are using in time synchronizations of all the military networks wherein some command and control stations are apart. Decisions are taken based on certain actions to be taken on the field networks consisting of the radars, network of weapon systems, and the guided missiles and so on. So there is a big requirement of time synchronization, and GPS time synchronization is placing a great role for all of us working in DRDO.
Yes, sir.
I believe IRNSS is not an augmentation system. It is a stand-alone regional
Yes, yes.
navigation system. Augmentation systems is Gagan. Augmentation systems of American is VAS. It is a global. Gagan is regional, but it is augmentation system. IRNSS is a GNSS component, but it is a just navigation system, not augmentation system. So correction must be there before the audience, as Namasivaya has told, IRNSS is a augmentation system. No. It can provide better accuracy, but the standalone accuracy of the system is just a navigation system.
Independent system. I given the two comparison also, the slide also I given.
No, but it is an independent system, but it is never a augmentation system, because you are not augmenting the accuracy of IRNSS with any other efforts.
This slide shows the exact differences between IRNSS and the Gagan.
Correct.
Self-reliant navigation is independent navigation system. Yes, it is a regional.
Gagan is specific to Airport Authority of India requirement. Maybe later on we can derive this requirement for other applications as well, and we are doing that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
Sir.
In order to, we have to appreciate the capabilities of the design of GPS. If I know the technology available in those 80s, I was with them in April 1987 with the designers Magnavox. I have gone with my DRDO this one attachment. So I'm talking about the thing in April 1987. By that time, there were 6 satellites launched. And if you know the technology limitations, they were not having even the atomic clock. They have used temperature controlled crystal oscillators with 1 in 10 to the power of 10. Now we are telling it is 1 in 10 to the power of minus 13. Anyhow, 3 times better than at that time. But they started with only temperature controlled crystal oscillators, and the power available with the TWT was only 10 watts. The space qualified transmitter available at that time was only 10 watts. And we had to receive the signal from 22,000 kilometers. And the receiver, what you are having is a small receiver wherein the antenna gain is only minus 6 dBi. Now you understand how they struggle to fulfill, extract the signal which is submerged in the noise.
Right.
And the different codes, the CDMA codes are used, what you call the gold codes and other things. And these are the military systems, and they should be against them jamming. And jamming code of American, that precision, we are having 2 frequencies for American Navstar. Normal one, what we call the CA, the civilian acquisition, another is the precision. The CDMA code length goes for more than a week with 10 megahertz clocking. Now we can understand the capability of anti-jamming at those things. So I was with them for 4 days with the Magnavox people, were the first designers. At that time, there were no all our say solid state receivers or whatever it is, no microprocessors. All those things were not at that time people have designed. Now we are not talking about those things because now we are having active amplifiers. So we forgot that the minus 6 dBi is over. Now we are having the 30 dB gain or whatever it is. But the thing is, when the people have started, when they were not having the atomic clock and this high power transmitters, we have to appreciate them.
So there's a few questions in the chart actually. Gagan is not GPS and GBOS. Actual augmentation systems are 3 types. That is ground-based augmentation systems, satellite-based augmentation system, and aircraft-based augmentation system. And Gagan is SBOS type of augmentation system for GPS. I think it is clarified. Mr. Nitin Tiwari.
Namaste, Garu.
Sir.
S stands for a space. It is one is a ground, the other one is not satellite. It is a space-based augmentation.
Yeah, space-based augmentation.
Space-based. Yeah.
Space-based.
So any other questions? Namaskar Garu, I have one question.
Sir.
There are two types of clocks which Americans give along with the GPS.
Yeah.
One is precision clock, another one is coarse.
Huh.
The precision clock is not available to everyone. That is available only to the American Defense System.
Yes.
So, and also the total control is done by them. Suppose during the war time and all those things, if our systems are dependent on their GPS system, there is every possibility they may switch off and all our systems will go away. So how do we face such situation during such time? What we should do?
Sorry for the
could you hear my questions?
Hello.
Shall I?
I want to clarify. Yes. Sorry.
You are having two mics on.
Yes,
Haji.
Not space class.
What is the question on SBOS?
SBOS full form is satellite based. The augmented system means
yeah, your two mics are on.
Sorry to say, many people say like satellite-based augmentation system. Truly, but it is basically satellites in deep space rather than at the GPS altitude. The satellite which augment is deep in space. Therefore, ICAO is the authority which decides all civil aviation entire world. That for the mandate of ICAO, the space-based augmentation system is a acronym of SBOS. Oh, SBOS. So we work on various augmentation system. European has IGNOS, American have WASP, India has Gagan. Similarly, Australian has got another augmentation system. Everybody wants to augment entire GNSS satellite-based signals with their own kind of augmentation. So it is not purely satellite, it is rather space-based. A space-based network can be satellite, a space-based network can be even geostationary satellite. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Any other question? If there are no more questions, I request Dr. Venkateshwarlu to deliver vote of thanks.
Very good afternoon. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
I thank you very much to the today's speaker, Sri Nuli Namasewaya Garu, a very ardent and very hard worker, and is the most fetching resource for our IET Hyderabad Center. And in a such a short notice, he could manage to gather and inform and give us the inputs, especially the GNSS focus on NAVIC and emerging demands. Started with history of navigation in the ancient times with various timeline incidents of navigation and its origin, various countries, and constellations, especially GNSS constellations, codings used in that, and GPS measurements, accuracy, configurations, and errors that are possibly that are getting improved day by day. Then GLONASS, basically a Russian navigation system, augmentation of GPS and GLONASS, the three augmentation systems like GBAS, SBAS, and ABAS, and then GPS wide space area augmentation system, and then more focus on Gagan, which is our pride system that we are using now. Gagan system with tech stations being stationed in Hyderabad, NAVIC with Indian constellation, IRNSS, which is basically navigation with Indian constellation, and IRNSS with the three atomic clocks, and covering 1500 kilometers beyond the border with 7 satellites, and IGNSS applications, then assistant GNSS applications, then emerging demands, and what is more interesting is more about the IMES application, which is becoming more relevant as the GPS could reach to the location but not inside a location. And nowadays, like big campuses, for example, few companies, tech companies having hundreds of acres of land, once you reach inside the campus, you can't even locate exactly where the person is. So this is also becoming more relevant, and we thank you a lot from Center of Hyderabad, IET, and all the behalf of the IET Hyderabad and the dignitaries present here. I thank you so much. Nuli Namasve Sir Garu has been very, very informative, with good discussions with people like Niranjan Prasad Sir and Veerbhadra Reddy Sir, and there are Bhatia Sir, Narasimha Rao Sir, and many other some as well. Of course, if students also put few questions, it will be even good. And we are so much thankful to you, sir, for delivering it and making it to happen, because this continuation of the series of seminars and webinars that you are doing, initiation taken by the team Hyderabad, has been very fruitful, has already given lots of benefits, and you have continued the tradition with a lot of gist and all the inspiration we derive from you. We really thank you so much, sir. And I thank you all the participants for regularly presenting at full-time presence with lots of enthusiasm, much more than like normal students in these days. You never lose the concentration on the topic, and you show lots and lots of interest, and that's really very encouraging, sir, because age is not the criteria for the learning, and you're proving it every Sunday that you are there and you are inspiring all of us. We thank you a lot for your participation and questions, and just for knowledge and the kind of digestion you want based on these techniques. You have been following very, very clearly all the tricks, techniques, traits, and then questioning them, and that's a big inspiration, sir, to you all. Thank you so much for taking the time on Sunday to be present here. Thank you a lot. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. There is a small announcement that in the second week of December, we are conducting one 4-day workshop on printed circuit board design. So I request the faculty members to encourage the students to join that workshop, and also I request the students to take the advantage. It is a hands-on workshop. Please join. And again, we'll meet next Sunday with a new topic. Thank you, Namah Shivaya Garu. Thank you, Venkatesh Garu.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Bhatia ji.
For your
Thank you, all of you.
patient listening of this presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Is it going to be online, no, workshop?
Sir, workshop is physical, sir. It is hands-on workshop.
Okay, then it is okay. If it is online, probably even from Bangalore, I guess, some other thing we can inform them. no? Then it's,
We wanted to give the training so that they can develop the skills and they can launch themselves
So the physical is better.
for career development. They can take.
Practical
That's right.
means the hand-on has to be there, correct?
Yes, sir.
So,
It's a 4 days workshop.
yeah. Nice, I think. Thank you very much.
Anupam Tiwari, it is from 9th December to 12th December. We will be circulating the posters most probably by today evening.